Kia ora and welcome to a one-of-a-kind podcast series brought to you by Maxim Institute, Maximise Election 23. We are here every week to dive into the latest news, discussing the plain and the fancy articles while bringing you insightful analysis of the various events across our country. We also present the Generally Good Egg Award and share our expectations for the following week. Well, welcome along to the Maximise podcast. Marcus and Marianne, good to have you with us.
Hey.
Good morning.
We are going to roll right into it with our plain article of the week. We are talking about the PREFU, which stands for, Marcus?
Pre-election economic and fiscal update, and you can't get plainer than that.
That's right. So what are your thoughts on it then, Marcus, on the PREFU?
Yeah, so this was what came out last Tuesday, so we mentioned it in our week ahead, so we thought we'd revisit it, because it's actually quite important. This is the opening of the books about a month before the election, so that everyone's on the same page, so that the government knows what's going on day to day with the numbers, but the opposition, the media, and the voting public don't. So the idea is then it's two reasons. One, you can then use that to determine how well the government did over the last, or is doing financially. But secondly, so that opposition parties, when they make promises, you can see whether or not they are fiscally able to, whether they're possible, yeah, or prudent. So that came out, and the general consensus seemed to be, could have been worse.
Could have been worse. So what were some of the factors in that, Marianne?
Of it not being worse.
Yeah, or maybe some of the spin that was going into that not being worse.
The numbers are so big that I'm not really sure what is possible and what isn't.
Yeah.
I found Bryce Wilkinson's comments on the direction things have taken really interesting because, okay, that's a snapshot in time.
Yeah.
He's going back and looking at other forecasts and other points in time. Before the 2017 election, the Treasury was forecasting a cumulative fiscal surplus of $24 billion for the 4 years into June 2022. So we were talking surpluses 6 years ago, which sounds, it feels like a different lifetime.
Yeah.
No.
What does that mean?
Will we ever see one again?
Yeah.
And of course, COVID-19 is the reason that, that changed everything. Well, he points out that the December 2019 forecast, this is pre-COVID, showed that Labor's planned $10.8 billion spending increase in the 4 years to June 2022 had then become a $30.1 billion increase.
So instead of $10 billion, they spent $30 billion.
So we were going to have a surplus, and then there was going to be a $10.8 billion spending increase, and then it's actually going to be a $30.1 billion, and that was before COVID happened.
Yeah, and that was bigger than the surplus, right? Because the surplus was $24 billion, and so the increase was $30 billion.
That's right.
Yeah.
There was no commitment to having a surplus.
No.
So that was really the point, was that they, prior to COVID, the spending was far
it was
greater.
already not tenable.
So COVID definitely exacerbated that.
Hugely.
But it's not just because of COVID.
COVID didn't exacerbate it. Policies that were, COVID was the excuse to do things because they're continuing to go down some of the tracks that were supposed to be, we thought, temporary. But no, it was largely an excuse to put some of the spending in place.
So we have the thing that the response to COVID, point well taken, Marianne, was exacerbating pre-existing trends. But also that any of those forecasts in the Treasury forecast back 2019, 2020 were blown out of the water by events.
By an event that no one saw coming, right? Yeah.
And so that's
even without that event, the forecasts, no, that's going to change now. So we've got forecasts now, and I'm kind of...
Don't put too much stock in them.
Maybe not.
Yeah, that's right. Cross our fingers.
But I'm not an economist.
Yeah.
Well, we were just saying beforehand about the difference between the forecasted tax take and May budget had to be dialed back by $2 billion about 8 weeks later.
Just $2 billion. Yeah.
Just $2 billion.
Just,
Well, we got to the stage where $2 billion is a bit like, oh, well, just $2 billion.
And all the tax policies, they're based on this big assumption that people are actually going to be earning things or buying things. And if you make things not good for people to stick around and earn them or to buy things, well,
if people are
they're
leaving
not
the country
going to do the things that actually generate the taxes. Exactly. So there are a lot of assumptions in play.
I thought the one final thing I'd say about this, because we could talk about pre-foo all day.
All day.
We probably will once we stop recording.
That's right.
You can, I won't. This will do me.
Is that New Zealand, Michael Riddell, a Reserve Bank, former Reserve Bank economist, pointed out that we like to compare ourselves internationally about the overall debt level as a percentage of GDP, not too bad. But in terms of the deficit, which is how much more we're spending each year as a percentage of GDP than we're getting in, we are the second worst country of all the advanced countries. So the only one spending more as a percentage of GDP is Japan. So they're about over 5% of GDP. We're about 4.3, 4.4.
Wow.
And I think that's the most depressing thing of the whole
And this is not COVID. This is a normal
This is
year.
a normal year.
and this is
for
comparing
us,
ourselves to other countries that are not necessarily making great decisions.
Yeah.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Everyone else is jumping off of fiscal cliffs. Would you?
Yeah, that's right. Well, moving on to the fancy, we have got the Labour Party death spiral, as we have coined it in the office. They seem to be just going down and down and down in the polls. Preferred Prime Minister going down. It's going to take... So I wonder, they were like this before 2005 with Helen Clark and Don Brash. Their poll numbers had gone down. They managed to come back on election night and claw it back. They were similar in 2017, although they did have a change of leader probably about now.
Well, it's about 8 weeks out.
Yeah,
So.
and then they bounced right back. Could we see something as miraculous as that in 2023? I mean, most people seem to think that it's a foregone. I mean, the articles are all about centre-right configurations for the next government.
Yes.
We're talking about whether ACT is going to be making up a certain percentage, or whether New Zealand First is going to be back in Parliament. So there's not a lot of configuration on the centre-left. What do you guys think?
Never say never, Jason.
That's right.
Otherwise, why are we bothering with this podcast? We should just pick it up now. It's all over.
Marianne, what do you think?
I think that it's confirming a trend that started not recently.
Yeah.
I
So
keep
it's an
coming
ongoing-
back to 2021, 2022. I think the left alienated people, and now we're seeing that was their buffer. They took for granted people who now are not going to be there, and so with the people who are more on the undecided camp, they're going to have to rely on them, and you can't. So yeah. And then obviously the worse the numbers look, the worse they get.
So I'm just for listeners at home, I've got a graph here from Wikipedia. If you go opinion polling 2023 on Wikipedia, there's a fantastic graph where they put all the opinion polls together and then do one of those fancy smoothing lines between them. And you see that there's about January 21, you had National at about 25, Labour at 47.
Wow.
And since then they converge. About the beginning of last year, National overtook and has never been lost that lead to Labour. But you see that the closest they've got since that they crossed over was about April of this year.
Yeah. That was just after the Prime Minister Hipkins became Prime Minister. Yeah.
The honeymoon period.
That's right. Yeah.
And I can remember at the time there were some people calling for a snap election then.
Yeah.
And looking at it, looks like that was probably his best chance.
The window.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what does this mean for the election then? Any calls you want to make?
So I think the real danger for Labour is that people become demoralised. So not that they're going to go vote for National, but they just won't turn out.
Vote.
Yeah, they won't turn out. They will have a depressed turnout, especially compared to last year.
Because people see the writing on the wall. They're like,
Yeah.
I'm just not going to bother.
Not going to bother, or I'm a bit disillusioned by the party. Nothing else works for me, but I'm not going to vote.
Not that Nationals is going to be amazing, I don't think. But
The turnout?
Yeah.
But I think Labour's going to have a bigger issue with turnout.
Bigger depressed
For those
voting
reasons, yeah.
block.
So historically, the lower the voting turnout, the better the right does.
Yeah.
Proportionally.
That's right.
Yeah. Oh, it will be interesting to keep an eye on that. We're going to move on to the winners and losers. So first of all, the winners. Who have we got this week, folks?
Numbers.
Numbers. There's numbers.
More
numbers.
numbers.
Yeah. We got polling, we got
numbers.
pre-foo, and now we got immigration numbers.
Yes.
Wow. So stats
Through the roof, right?
Yeah, Stats New Zealand came out last week. Again, there's a lovely graph. You can go on Stats NZ if you like that sort of thing for it. But it has all the way back to the beginning of this millennium for the migration number. So the number of people coming in, the number of people leaving, and then the difference between the two. And the year to July last year was the highest on record in terms of the number of people coming in.
Wow.
But it's also the highest on record for the number of people leaving.
So it happens when you open your borders again.
Yeah. So that's a really good... Yeah, I wonder how much of that is suppressed demand.
And another story that came out a couple of weeks ago, which I'm surprised hasn't had more press. Stuff has been talking to people, immigration officers who are being told to ignore, well, they're saying they're being told to ignore things like, criminal convictions, little things like that.
Yeah.
Whether or not they actually have the work experience that's required for the type of work visa they're looking for. So there's big pressure from the top, including people getting, what was the word they used? They get shout outs if they process the most applications and warnings if they don't. So that could be contributing to our high immigration numbers.
Yeah.
They're
but
basically
are they the
not
right
saying
people
no.
that are coming in? Like, are they doctors who are, getting skipped in the queue or
And are they really
teachers?
doctors?
Yeah. And are
One
their
of the
medical
quotes-
licenses valid?
One of the quotes, which wasn't talking about doctors but could be applied, it was, they see people applying for butcher's jobs who've never held a knife in their lives. Which, surgeons.
A surgeon
you
and
could
a
get
scalpel.
a fake surgeon in there.
That is
So
amazing.
if it's true, then first of all, no.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
secondly, that could be contributing to our numbers.
And they wonder why institutional trust is at an all-time low in New Zealand.
Well,
Are we surprised? Nope.
Not really.
Nope, they're probably telling the truth.
and just to bring it back to pre-food, because why not? One of the Treasury forecasts about GDP growth, which is what you kind of need to get debt down as a proportion of GDPs, grow your economy, was wholly reliant on population growth.
Yes. Yeah.
So that would play into why there might be an institutional push for as many
The
migrants
reason for the pressure.
as
Yeah.
people as
Totally.
But
possible.
again, you've got to have the right people coming in.
Sure.
Because they have to be able to spend money and get jobs and earn and pay their taxes. Otherwise, it's going to
Because,
not
you
happen.
don't pay tax on thefts.
That's right. There's no GST
The wrong
on
people
it.
don't have that.
That's right.
Yeah. Or if you're, exactly.
I mean, the people,
And so the loser of the week, who have we got? I think someone who has moved from the winner category to the loser category. Marianne?
Are we talking about civil debate?
No, that's... Because we did we had hecklers on the winners a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? And
You
now,
might have to re-record this because I might be going down a different track.
No,
You looked at me and I was going to
It
say,
all links together.
okay, I'm on the right track.
Yeah, we had who did we have yesterday? The hecklers.
The hecklers.
Yeah. Who was heckled yesterday? It was... it was
the ACT
David
party?
Seymour, the ACT party
Yeah.
at his conference. Yeah.
Yeah.
He wasn't the only one.
I was leaping straight to Posey Parker, deciding not to come because not just heckling, but actual
physical
contact.
Yeah, contact. That's
Should we
a
call
good
it
way
violence?
to put it. Yeah.
So we've kind of shifted our view. Well, not our view, but we've moved the hecklers from the winners category that we had a couple of weeks ago on this podcast to perhaps the losers category, as it's isn't it, Chase?
Yeah, because of the thugs veto is what they call it, isn't it, Marcus? That's what you like to call it, because there's the point where the Freedom Party shuts down freedom of speech by
kind of ironically.
heckling. Yeah, ironically, right? That they do this at events. People just can't have a free exchange of ideas when that happens.
About half the media, according to one report, when the heckler was finally got out. So the problem was security couldn't get him out for some reason. He'd done a good job of lashing himself to a seat or something like that.
Wow.
So it took about 8 minutes to get him out, apparently. And by the time they finally got him out, about half the media followed him to interview him. Why wouldn't you heckle when that's the response?
Yeah,
exactly.
When
that's the response.
You get more time in front of a camera. You get more heard. Yeah.
And what are the headlines today? It's not about what David Seymour announced at an ACT Party launch.
Yeah.
It was ACT Party launch disrupted by hecklers.
Yeah.
And this is what they said.
And this is what they said.
Yeah.
And
And
this is what
we
the
spoke
impact.
to them afterwards. Yeah.
So the hecklers really they're winning.
Yeah. That's another one for the winners.
So I think civil debate is the loser, because what I would love, like with the Posey Parker story, what I would love is to find somebody who disagrees with her who wants to have a debate.
Like a civil debate,
I think you have
right?
horrible ideas. I think what you're saying is wrong and hateful. I want to tell you why and actually in real time talk with her about her ideas. Yeah. And I think the reason they're not doing that is because they don't have better ideas. Yeah. I think that she's going to say things that will challenge their ideas. So it's just frustrating that the hecklers are actually winning. Yeah. But the
Marcus,
general conversation is losing out.
Yeah. Marcus, do you have a nomination?
Yeah, a link to that. So we had the ACT Party launch, but just generally, I think David Seaman, who I think has also been a winner on this podcast, so maybe this is the kiss of death.
If you're a winner here, 2 weeks later, you're out. That's right.
So he is, I think, moved to the loser category this last week. There's been an air of panic, I think, in some of his announcements around floating the idea, for example, that if he is in a position to go into a coalition with National, that he would support them as a matter of confidence, but not a supply. Yeah. Which I didn't realise was a thing. The whole point of being in government is that you can pass money bills, that is supply. You can keep the lights on in government. And if you can't, the Governor-General will dissolve Parliament and ask for fresh elections. The whole point is who has the command of the numbers in Parliament to pass money supplies. Not policy, just money. Yeah. And so to say, I'm not going to support you on supply, just confidence, well, I thought those two go intimately hand in hand. Yeah. And I think that that's a sign of a bit of panic. I'm not sure if it's panic around Winston Peters being on.
Hasn't been ruled out.
Hasn't been ruled out.
Yeah.
And isn't that looking
over 5% more likely? Yeah.
And are we thinking that maybe Chris Luxon has played that pretty well? Yeah. You know? He sort of burst through all the media asking him every day, is he ruling him out? And he's just kept on saying 2 ticks blue. And now maybe that's he's got the two to play off against each other. And
then maybe he's the one who's come out better off in the end. We'll have to see on election day. So what are we looking forward to in the week ahead? Anything?
Jason, are we looking forward to anything?
Are we? Yeah, no. Well, why don't we talk about the leaders' debate?
Oh, yes.
Yes, that's a thing that's happening. There's been
an actual debate, finally.
Well, let's hope it's an actual debate, right? Because it could be...
As long as there are no hecklers, it's going to be something good.
They better veto the audience.
They have canned laughter and canned clapping instead of real people. Yeah, so the leaders' debate, I'm sure a big topic is going to be still the alleged hole in National's tax
which
plan.
Is how much?
Well, the thing I've seen is about 500 million.
Oh, so a rounding error, right? Well, when we're talking about 2 billion less in tax from in 8 months and now.
Well, I think this is why when National announced that they are not going to increase the deficit or borrow more money to fund their tax policy, they've been very keen to say this is fiscally neutral. Yes. We'll raise more money in other areas to reduce our tax take elsewhere. You do open yourself up to people saying, is this really true? Yeah. Whereas, I've often heard people say, well, why don't the media ask other parties about their promises and how you're going to fund that? Well, we all know how they're going to fund it.
They're just going to borrow money, go to the bank, say,
borrow money. Yeah, exactly. But I'm sure the leaders' debate will have lots of that. I'm not sure if anyone really... like a voter, do they really care about the whole, but also the leaders' debate? Yeah, I don't know. Do you, Marianne?
I don't know either.
You're waiting to see.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like it's Longy and Muldoon. Some of the earliest memories of politics, like that was fascinating. Yeah. As a however.
It's funny that the leaders themselves have been trying to downplay their own abilities as well and talk up the other person. So it doesn't seem like it's going to be a fiery kind of
everything contest. Will be pretty well scripted and canned, I think. Yeah. But I mean, it will be good to see them in action, actually talking about things, because it's an improvement on some of the other stuff that we've been discussing.
That's right. Yeah, as long as there's no hecklers. Yeah, that's right. Well, why don't we finish today with some nominations for a Generally Good Egg Award? Yeah. Yes. Who have we got?
We've got Brian Cadogan, the Clutha District Mayor, who is my new hero.
Oh, yes. What's he been doing?
Yeah. He's been going around fixing damaged election hoardings.
Yes.
From all parties.
From all parties. So
he's not playing any favorites.
This person that I like, their election hoardings being
and
used.
He was quoted saying, he first of all said, if somebody accidentally damages the sign, they get a bit drunk and, one off. But he says, if you've got up in the middle of the night to knock over by stealth the one sign you really hate, you've got a problem.
I think anyone would agree you generally have a
all
problem.
You've got to offer democracy?
That's right.
That's a great winner. Generally good egg.
Generally good egg.
Which
good
is a
man.
winner.
Yep.
But I do wonder for my generally good egg what Brian Cadogan would do about this, because this wasn't done in Clutha. This was in, I think, Tauranga, where someone has vandalised an ACT Party billboard with the face of David Seymour, but turned David Seymour into Ken from the Barbie movie. And it's all pink, and he's put in party vote Ken for the real ACT. This is a work of art.
It is. I saw that picture. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, you should go see it if you haven't seen it online.
So I wonder what he'd do. It's a vandalism, but it's kind of made it into something unique and cool, right?
Yeah. And quite frankly, so if you get up in the middle of the night and go chop down a sign, you've got a problem.
Yeah.
Whereas you get out in the middle of the night and spend 5 hours
painting a sign,
candle, do you
someone
really have a problem? But I think
great.
Your idea, Jace, was great. Is that David Seymour should
take it down and auction it
off
for charity.
That's a keeper.
Yeah. That is. It's a work of art.
Jacinda Ardern to sign it.
Yeah. Because he has a way of,
Yeah, he did that with
taking insults and turning them around
into gold. Yeah.
He might get back into the winners column if he does that.
Yeah. Oh, wow, guys. That's a really good discussion this week. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks, Jess.
Thanks for listening to the Maxim Institute podcast. If you'd like to hear more from us and keep up with the rest of our research and analysis of politics and policy in New Zealand, you can sign up on the homepage of our website to get our monthly forum email and invitations to future Maxim Institute events. You can search and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. From the team at Maxim, mā te wā. Goodbye for now.